Welcome to Eat Blog Talk, where food bloggers come to get their fill of the latest tips, tricks, and insight into the world of food blogging. If you feel that hunger for information, we'll provide you with the tools you need to add value to your blog, and we'll also ensure you're taking care of yourself, because food blogging is a demanding job. Now, please welcome your host, Megan Porta.
Hey food bloggers, it is just you and me today, and inside this solo episode, we are going to talk about leveling up your person or people situation. Before we dive into that, I would love to take just a little bit of time here to share about the Eat Blog Talk mastermind groups that will be starting in October 2021. First of all, you might be wondering, why mastermind groups? What is so great about them? What is so powerful about them? As Napoleon Hill, one of my favorite authors from the book Think and Grow Rich, said about the mastermind principle, 2 or more people actively engaged in the pursuit of a definite purpose with a positive mental attitude constitute an unbeatable force. Mastermind groups with like-minded peers provide immense value and opportunity for business growth, more than you can imagine. There's such power in the mastermind. So let's grow together, learn from one another, hold each other accountable, and achieve really big things for our businesses. Inside the groups, we will hold weekly Zoom calls that will have the format of peer-to-peer learning, with members taking turns being in the, quote, hot seat. Once a month, guest experts will be invited into these calls to deliver live, interactive value. The groups we've run so far in 2021 have been massively successful, creating transformations and also providing a safe place for food bloggers to come together every week to learn, grow, share, even commiserate at times, and shine. And a byproduct of these groups is that people are gaining confidence to be better business owners and just more solid entrepreneurs. So if this sounds like something that you would benefit from, please go to eatblogtalk.com to fill out an application to determine if you're a good fit. Not everybody will be, and that's totally fine. So this group will be capped at 10 people. So it's a first come, first serve basis. So come fill out the application if you're interested. On to our topic today. So this is a topic that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and I will get to that in just a sec. But first I wanted to ask you this. Do you guys ever find yourself suddenly in seasons where you're just learning and growing more than in other seasons? Like when it's unintentionally happening. I find myself in that position probably every quarter or so, and I don't even realize it's happening until I'm in the middle of it. And I'm like, oh, okay, here we are. I'm in a season of learning and growth where I am just suddenly devouring information. During these times, I have tons of ideas and thoughts, and I have this instinct to implement all of it immediately, and I have to rein it in. And honestly, historically, past me would dive into a good portion of the ideas that entered my brain without really giving those ideas much thought. But the new and improved version of Megan says, I wouldn't say I say no to most things, but I'm just very careful these days about what I say yes to, and I make intentional yeses and intentional no decisions. And I think in another episode, we could probably talk about how I decide that, how I go through the process of deciding whether something is a yes or a no, but I will leave that for another episode. For today, I would love to talk about one of the ideas that I have recently put my stamp of approval on and that has been floating around in my brain, and that is leveling up your people situation. As you guys know, people are everywhere. This world is absolutely packed with people. Some are fun, some are inspiring, some lift us up. And then, of course, there are the other types, those who bring us down and maybe deplete our energy. But we won't get into that today either. Today, we're going to focus on the first category, the quality, uplifting, encouraging, successful, smart, kind, high quality types of people who we should be intentionally finding and pulling into our lives. You may have heard me talk about the medical ordeal that happened to my husband this summer while we were on, quote, vacation. It was not really a vacation. It was more like a very long, extended trip to the hospital. But that whole situation caused me to massively slow down, even more than I had been previously. And a cool little byproduct that came from that slowdown was that I had many quiet moments. I did not work much at all, honestly, and I had so much time to do thoughtful thinking. Is that redundant? Thoughtful thinking. So all of these ideas and insights started coming to me during that time when my husband was in the hospital and the aftermath of it when we were getting home and processing all of it. And they're still rolling in. I wake up almost every morning with something that has just profoundly hit me overnight or in those early morning hours. And most of them have been really simple thoughts, like things that I've known my whole life, but for whatever reason, they're just suddenly hitting me and sticking to me. So it's been really cool. There's this really simple concept that keeps rolling around in my head. Up-level my people. I think we all intrinsically know how important quality people are in our lives and how important it is to have good people as opposed to the negative ones. It feels good to have supportive, kind people in our lives, right? But how much intention do we put behind making sure waves of these people continue to roll into our lives? This concept needs to be taken to the next level, in my opinion. So everyone listening, myself included, can benefit from leveling up, and not just leveling up, but leveling way up, like thinking way above what your kind of standard is. So leveling way up with the people we invite into our lives and into our businesses. I am putting this episode together in hopes of inspiring you to massively level up when it comes to the people you choose to surround you. I would love for you to start thinking about ways that you can place yourself in situations where you have the most to learn out of anyone in the group. I used to be really intimidated by this idea that I was the least experienced or the least successful or maybe the person who made the least amount of money in any given group. But now I'll tell you about my story in a little bit about how I have massively and intentionally leveled up. But now I love being the least successful or the least experienced person in a group, because when that happens, that means that I have the biggest opportunity for growth out of anyone. And I have the most to learn. I have the most to gain. And I love that idea. I believe that this is one of the most overlooked details about how to nail success quickly. You've got to upgrade your people. And here's a little side note to that. Sometimes you have to pay to upgrade your people. Toward the end of 2020, I just made the decision that I was going to start placing myself very uncomfortably at times into situations where I was that person who had the most to learn. I went way out of my comfort zone and I started paying to be in this membership for podcasters that I'm still in now. I had never purchased a membership even close to that price point before, so it was a really big stretch for me. And I actually sat on it for about 2 months before diving into it. I got my husband's stamp of approval, and it took me a lot of processing time, but I had a really good feeling about the people inside the group. I loved the leaders. There was nothing but good feelings, and I knew they were going to be just a supportive group of big thinkers, big dreamers. They had abundance mindsets. They were driven entrepreneurs, and I just knew it was going to be a good fit. And 8 months later, joining that membership, I can honestly say has been one of the best decisions I have ever made for my business. I have made connections with people inside that group that will last for a long time. And the amount of value I've received from being a member there's not even a word that I can put there, way exceeds the amount that I paid to be in it. I would say within the first month or even couple of weeks that I was in the group, I was like, yep, that was totally worth it. If it ended today, I would be satisfied. I joined a different high-level mastermind group in the spring of this year, leveling up yet again. And this group was even more intimidating. There was just a massively financially successful group of people, way beyond what I have experienced thus far. So I knew that spending time with the other members would speed up my success and open up opportunities more quickly than if I weren't in the group. But it was intimidating. It was scary. My predictions about the speeding up of my success has definitely been the case. And it's been just a few short months, so I can imagine what's going to transpire in the next year. Then this summer, I began coaching food bloggers on a one-on-one basis, and it has been super rewarding and fun. I have been loving it. And just as I was starting to dig into this new venture, I realized one day I was like, oh, this is kind of a weird thought, but I don't even have a coach myself. This just seems so wrong. How can I justify coaching people when I don't even have a coach? So I found myself an incredible coach, and maybe I will reserve space for the story somewhere else, but it's a really cool story how I found him. I'll share about that another time. But again, I went way out of my comfort zone to invest in this coach to help guide me in ways that would accelerate my personal growth and also tweak my mindset so that I can serve you guys and my clients better, and also accelerate the growth of my business. I could talk for a really long time if I were to share with you all of the incredible byproducts that have come from immersing myself in, and not just immersing myself in, but paying for each of these groups and people's worlds. The people, the opportunities, the aha moments, the nudges, the accountability. So many incredible things have happened, and all because I made the decision to massively level up with the people I choose to be in my circle, and because I stepped into an uncomfortable place with my finances and with my comfort. I'm not here to tell you that you have to overextend your spending. That is not my message today. I know a lot of people are really careful about the money that comes in and keeping an eye on it and not spending more than they make. So I don't want my message to be confused. I just want you to see the possibilities that can come from surrounding yourself with really high quality people who know more than you do and who have experienced more than you have. And sometimes that requires an investment. Sometimes it's an uncomfortable investment. I was thinking about this episode before I sat down to record it, and I was trying to draw the distinction between networking and leveling up. Networking is kind of a loose term, right? I mean, we can use that to describe so many things that we do within our world here in food blogging. But I consider it to be an exchange of information or having conversations or connections with peers. You can attend a conference and chat with the people who happen to sit down at the same table as you, and that is networking. With networking, you don't always choose who you connect with. Sometimes you do, but not always. Sometimes random networking turns out really well. I have heard of mastermind groups that are really successful that have been created fairly randomly by just a few people who sat down at the same table at a conference. And I personally have made some really great friends this way. So I'm not at all dissing on networking. In fact, I am a massive proponent of networking and connecting with as many people as you can whenever possible. But that kind of general random networking is not what I'm talking about here today. So in addition to that kind of networking, so that more random stuff where you go to conferences and meet people, I propose that you extend yourself in a possibly uncomfortable way in order to purposefully surround yourself with people you know will accelerate your growth on many levels. There's nothing that is going to accelerate your business growth more exponentially then purposefully inviting the right people into your circle. And this can have a massive compounding effect on your business. I will quickly run through some ways that you can do this if your wheels are turning and you're like, oh, that sounds good. I would like awesome people in my life. Here are a few ideas. The first is to find people within the world of food blogging to connect with. So find people who you admire and whose work you respect and just go be around them. If we're talking about a fellow food blogger, become a loyal fan, devour their content. If we are talking about someone who offers a product or service, buy from them. If we're talking about someone who teaches or inspires, listen to everything they have to say and then engage them in a conversation. Any invitation that is extended to you from people who fall into this category of being a respected food blogger who delivers value in our world in some way, accept any invitation that comes your way. Put yourself in their worlds and don't wait for an invitation to be extended to you, because that may not happen. You may be waiting around for a while. So you do the work, you put yourselves in front of them. The next point is to find people outside of the world of food blogging to put yourself in front of. I think it is just as important, if not even more important, to find people outside of our world, our realm, who you admire and whose messages and work you respect and believe in, to find and to be around. The same advice from the previous point applies to this one. Find them, devour their content, listen to what they have, watch what they have to offer, become their biggest fans, and put yourself in their paths. This is totally not in my notes, but can I tell you a quick story that relates to this? I love this story, and maybe it'll be helpful to kind of frame this. If you are a frequent listener, you know that I'm a huge fan of John Lee Dumas from Entrepreneurs on Fire. I started listening to his podcast while doing, we were probably on a year-long sprint of creating recipe videos. So my videographer and I, while we were creating our videos, were listening to his podcast episodes. And inside his podcast episodes, if you're not familiar, he interviews all kinds of different entrepreneurs and business professionals who impart knowledge about being an entrepreneur and how to grow massively and successfully. I mean, it's all like really great stuff. And he covers such a variety of topics. So we were binge listening to his episodes, and the more I listened, I just became entranced by everything that I was hearing. His episodes transformed the way I approached my business, honestly. And it was a huge turning point for leveling up for me and just, making more money and getting more people in my life and all of the good things. I am definitely what you would consider a super fan of John's, and I do everything I can to go where he is at. If he is speaking at a virtual conference, for example, I'm there, no doubt about it. I read all of his emails that he sends out. He just published a book. I read every word within a few weeks. His business and the way that he lives, so not just his business, but the way he lives his life, is how I want my business and my life to be in a few years. So I tune in, I show up, and I listen to him. I do what he does, and I put myself where he is. John lives in Puerto Rico, so there's not a whole lot of opportunity to just bump into him, especially now with the pandemic and the after effects of that and viruses, etc. So it was probably March when he sent out an email saying that he would be speaking at a retreat for entrepreneurs in Puerto Rico. I immediately signed up to go, and I did. I went. So in April of this year, I was able to meet him in person after listening to his podcast for years. And I actually got to talk to him. I got to give him a hug. He signed my copy of his book. It was really cool. So I had this moment during lunch one day. We were all sitting around a table, kind of mastermind style. We were helping to solve each other's problems and just presenting challenges. I was sitting 2 seats away from him, and I had this moment that I will never forget where he was talking. He was helping to solve someone's problems. And I was like, holy crap, dude. John Lee Dumas is sitting 2 seats away from you. How many years have you been faithfully listening to his podcast, totally consuming all of his content? It was like a pinch me moment. 3 years ago, 3 years prior to that, I had been making and filming like crazy in my house and listening to his voice come through on my speakers. And now I was freaking in a room with him, listening to him talk in real life. Not to make it sound like I was dysfunctionally worshiping him or anything weird like that, but it was one of those moments where I realized that I did that. I listened. I was inspired. His life and business totally aligns with what I want. So I put myself in front of him on purpose. And it was in a different country, in some random conference room where I was sitting 2 seats away from him. And it just hit me. It was like, I did this. I put myself here. I left my family for 4 days. I got up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, got on 3 different planes to come over here. And now I am a blip on John's radar, and who knows what that might turn into down the road. And by the way, the high-level mastermind that I mentioned joining in April or May was because of this retreat that I went to. So because I was intentionally putting myself in front of John and paying for that, I found all of these other opportunities, and I could go on and on about all of the people I've met through this mastermind, all of the things they've been able to help me with. But I'll stop there and just tell you the moral of the story, which is do what you have to do within reason, of course. Don't sell your children or anything like that. Do what you have to do to put yourself right in front of those people who would consider you to be their super fans. The next point is hire a coach. Think about if there's someone who always seems to deliver advice or insights that align with the way you live your life or you want to live your life, like the way I'm talking about John. He works 5 days a month and he makes a lot of money. He serves so much value to people. He has made a huge impact in the entrepreneurial space, and that is what I want. So find those people who have what you want. And if they don't offer coaching, ask them if they offer coaching, because they might be willing to coach you even if they don't have a coaching program set up. This is a really great way to get one-on-one support from successful people who you admire, who you trust, and also to accelerate your business and your personal growth. The next point is attend a conference and put yourself out there. So instead of just attending a conference and quietly going from session to session, keeping your head in your notebook, and then running back to your hotel and going to sleep, don't do that. If you go to a conference, go with intentions to really deeply connect with people. So during the sessions, raise your hand, ask those questions you want to ask. Linger after a session and get to know a speaker that you love or a speaker who delivered a great message. Sit down at a table of bloggers. Okay, this one's really hard. Sit down at a table of bloggers who have way more experience than you do and start talking. I have been so hung up by this in the past. Like, I'll see a table of who I know to be like really experienced, successful bloggers, and I turn the other way because I'm so intimidated. Don't do that. Go sit with them. I promise you they will accept you and invite you in and interact with you, and they will help you to level up. Next, join a high-level mastermind group. I mentioned a little bit earlier that it can occasionally happen when those kind of happenstance, unpaid mastermind groups come together. Did I use happenstance right? I think I did. I never use that word. They can come together really nicely and without necessarily having a leader or a facilitator. But the real magic happens when you become part of a mastermind that is consistently led by one person, preferably by a person who is really immersed in the world of entrepreneurship, who has facilitated successful groups previously. I so strongly believe that it is worthwhile 100% to pay to be involved in a mastermind group, because when everyone is paying, everyone takes it seriously. People show up. They don't blow it off. They come ready to engage, to present their challenges, but also to help the other members. It is a no-joke space to convene and get your problem solved while also deeply connecting with like-minded people. Next, I would say start a podcast. I have an episode actually coming out very soon on this topic, so stay tuned for that. It's a really good one, my second one with Betsy Wallace. So I will just say a little bit here. Figure out a good topic that aligns with you and your business, and then invite your guests of choice to join you in a conversation on your podcast. I cannot tell you enough how valuable podcasts are when it comes to making connections and growing your business. At first, you might feel like you don't have all the top picks of just anyone because you're just starting. So those valued people who you really respect and admire might seem out of your reach. But if you're consistent with doing the podcast and keeping it up, people will start to take you seriously, and you will be amazed at the quality of people who will want to share their voices on your platform. And my last point is speak up on Clubhouse. If you are not on Clubhouse yet, by the way, you really should be. Send me an email and I will get you an invite so that you can come in and experience it. It's such a cool platform. It's really great for learning, yes, but the thing I love most about Clubhouse is that you have the best chance possible to directly connect with super smart entrepreneurs and people who you would otherwise never have the chance to talk to. Like literally, you can go into Clubhouse and have a conversation with famous people, like really, really big time people. There's no other platform in this world right now that gives you such quick access to big names, people you admire, podcasters, entrepreneurs. Big time food bloggers are on there talking. You can go into a room, you can tap that little raise hand icon on the bottom of your phone. And just like that, you're talking to people. It can be really scary. I get it. I've been terrified to get up on stage and talk in certain rooms, but don't pass up opportunities to do this. If you see someone you know, like, and trust and admire hosting a Clubhouse room, force yourself to go into the room, even if it's scary, even if your voice is shaking. Raise your hand and talk to them. There are a few moments that I remember from last spring. I had just been getting into Clubhouse and just kind of testing it out with going into other people's rooms and listening to the conversations. And a handful of times I found myself in rooms that were hosted by like people that were really intimidating, people like John Lee Dumas and other entrepreneurs that I had been following for a long time. And I got so nervous about going up on stage and talking that I didn't do it. I got stage fright. I backed away. I even left the room, and I still have regrets about that. Do the opposite of what I did. Force yourself to go into the room, be bold, and speak up. That is all of my points. That wraps up everything I was going to talk about. But the moral of this episode is level up your people. Whether that means investing money. By the way, can I say this really quick here? It is an investment when you pay to level up. So it's not just spending money, you are investing. Okay, that was just my little side note. So whether it means you're investing money in people or flying to another country or maybe just across the country or putting yourself out there on Clubhouse or putting yourself out there in any way, be bold, be persistent, be willing to invest, raise your hand, speak up, and get on an airplane if you need to. I will say this one more time. This is such an overlooked detail and can be the thing to totally transform your business in the most incredible way imaginable. There is nothing, in my opinion, that is going to accelerate your business growth more exponentially. That's it. That's all I have for today, food bloggers. Thank you so much for being here and for listening. I will see you next time.
We're glad you could join us on this episode of Eat Blog Talk. For more resources based on today's discussion, as well as show notes and an opportunity to be on a future episode of the show, be sure to head to eatblogtalk.com. If you feel that hunger for information, we'll be here to feed you on Eat Blog Talk.